Welcome back to another episode 136 of Generation Red, the kettle corn of Husker Fan Podcast, where we try to be sweet, but at times we can't help ourselves. We get a bit salty. My name's Ken, and I'm one of your hosts.
Hey, folks, it's Scott.
Hello, people. It is Coach B.A.
Fresh off of the road, rushing back from Uniontown from coaching all day. It's Coach B.A. How's the coaching gig going, dude?
Hey, it's going really well, man. We're getting prepared. We got a little this Friday. We have what you call a jamboree. It's, we got 4 schools getting together, just kind of scrimmaging against each other. And then a week from Friday, we kick off our season with the home game, and real excited. It's been going really well. Kids have been putting in a lot of work, and hopefully we can start to show that off on the field. I was rushing home because it was picture day today. So normally I would throw on a Husker shirt for this, but I'm wearing the coaching polo still. I literally got on and hopped on here. So, I rushed home from picture day. It was, that's always a fun day.
Absolutely. Explains the new haircut, I suppose. Picture
Oh, yeah.
Well, we're here to have some fun. Number one, the main topic that we're going to talk about tonight is the same topic every other Husker podcast, every other Husker media outlet. Everybody is talking about the game coming up in 2 days in Kansas City at Arrowhead Stadium. The Huskers taking on the Bearcats of Cincinnati. I don't know about you guys, but I'm absolutely stoked for the game. Unfortunately, I won't be going. Just didn't feel like I'm old now. 8 p.m. kickoffs mean I ain't getting out of that parking lot until almost 2 a.m. And I just don't feel like dealing with that many people in one parking lot. So call me a wimp. It is what it is. Anyway, but before we kind of get to the game, I'd kind of like to jump into talking about the Husker depth chart that just dropped this last week. And I don't know about you guys, but there were a couple of things that surprised me. We heard some guys were making big pushes in camp. We heard some news about a couple of these guys that maybe they had pushed their way into some contending for some important slots on the team. But I didn't expect this. I'll be honest with you. I honestly did not expect to see number one for me right out of the gate, TJ Lateef sitting in that number 2 spot at quarterback. I figured it'd be Gramstad or even Davila, but the 4-star that transferred in from Purdue's nowhere really to be found except right down at the bottom of the list. So interesting thoughts there, guys. Is that kind of one of those things that stuck out to you on the depth chart there, Coach? What do you think?
Yeah, no, that surprised me. I will say, so I'll be real. We haven't talked in a while, you and me, I haven't been on here in a bit. I actually, was able to witness a live practice in front of my very eyes. And I will say, TJ looks good. TJ looks really good. I think if there was a situation where we didn't have 15, he'd be a guy to keep an eye on, you know what I mean?
Sure.
But, that was a bit of a surprise to me. I don't know if you wanted me to throw out my other surprise, or I'll let Scott say his, and I'll throw my surprise out there. Go ahead, Scott.
Go ahead, Scott. You got any thoughts on TJ Lateef?
No thoughts on TJ Lateef. I wouldn't say it's a surprise, but one thing that I found interesting was that left tackle kind of depth stack where it's a lot of oars, and you get Elijah Pritchett from Alabama, and it's just I don't know how to interpret it. One half of me wants to say, you come from Alabama doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be a starter de facto. Right. But then on the other side, it's like, well, we've got Gunner and we've got Turner there. What does our left tackle room actually look like? Is it deep, or is it kind of questionable?
Sure.
Right.
I don't know. It's an intriguing setup, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's been one of my biggest questions. Is obviously the coaching staff is always going to say, "Oh, it's because we're so deep there." But I mean, obviously, that's what the coaching staff's going to say publicly. If they didn't say that, I would be really worried, right? Yeah. What I do wonder is how much of that is. Are we still trying to figure out who the dude is, or we just have a whole bunch of dudes, I guess? The other surprise that I kind of had, and maybe this is, I don't know, this might not be a huge surprise for everybody, but I was a little bit surprised to see that Riley Van Poppel was on the 2s and didn't get a black shirt. That's just, I was a little bit surprised to see that, just because.
Have they given out the black shirts? Just curious. I haven't paid attention.
They did.
Yes, they gave out the black shirts yesterday, I believe.
Okay. And do you know? Because I haven't been paying as much attention over the last 24 hours as I should have been, just because of the way that my days have been. Why'd they only give out 10?
Okay, so I just found this out today because I listened to Rhule today. The reason being was because they want to only give out 11. He says he doesn't want to make it a participation thing to where they're giving out like 14 of them, and they don't have that defensive tackle spot completely figured out. So they're waiting to see how that shook out before, you know what I mean? That spot with like Keona Davis and all them. So once they get that figured out, from my understanding, I think that's what's going on there. I think.
Which was a bigger surprise, that Riley Van Poppel is number 2, or that Elijah Judy actually took that top spot?
I think I think my bigger surprise is just that I just thought Van Poppel was gonna be like the dude there, I guess, especially after the single digits came out and he became a single digit guy. And I understand those are two separate things, the way Rhule's doing it. I do get that, but I was just surprised that he wasn't in that top spot, you know?
Maybe they're just humbling him.
Hey, maybe.
Just kind of like, yeah, you got your single digit, but
remember, they've always said too that the black shirt is not something you get to keep every week just because you've already earned it. You've got to earn it every day.
That is something that Rhule touched on today that I thought was pretty good. He, didn't spend, but I do remember him. I listened to it on my drive down there this morning, and I do. He touched on like, hey, it's going to be the 11 dudes that week, and I think that's good. And I know this is completely off topic, but just why we're talking about it, I really do like that Rhule is keeping it the 11 and not. He says he's not going to water it down to 14, 15 guys, because let's be real. I mean, I will be honest with you. I think there are 14 dudes on that defense that you could make deserve one, but it's just the 11 guys who are starting. You know what I mean? Like, I do really like that, because I don't know, you couldn't convince me that like Shavers, if he got one, it'd be like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I get it, that sort of thing. Or some of those guys, I think we have a lot of dudes who would be deserving of it, but I love that he's just keeping it of, hey, here's our top 11 dudes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I'm tracking on
Absolutely.
that.
I'm tracking with you 100%, Coach. Was there did you find yourself surprised at all with Williams Nwaneri over Cam Lenhart there at that defensive end spot?
Kind of, but it made me like excited, because I think that means that he's living up to the potential. Because I don't think the question with him is, is he talented enough? It's just unlocking that potential. You know what I mean? So was it surprising? Kind of, but I think it was more of a happy surprise, if that makes sense. Like, okay, that must mean he's showing what he's fully capable of. And then I don't know if you guys heard it, but I think it was Rhule just talking about like he's a completely different player from the time he showed up to then through spring ball, and now he's even still a completely different player from the spring till now. Like, that makes me really excited for him, because we all see the upside. The upside with him is insane.
Oh, well, yeah, sure. And wasn't it him who made the comments about the kind of the difference between here and Missouri?
Oh, I think so. I believe so.
Yeah, that he was just talking about how just the one thing that stood out to me was the details, that like, you aren't ever sitting around. Every aspect of your time training is dedicated to something. There's not
everything. Yep.
Yes, there's a purpose in everything. And that's kind of the MO of Matt Rhule. I don't mean to go off to a different kind of subject here, but I think it's worth talking about, is the fact that this is Matt Rhule year 3. And the one thing that you can point out with Matt Rhule and his successes in year 3 was that his guys were doing all of the details correctly. When it's at Temple and when it's at Baylor, they were winning 10, 11 games, not because they were super talented, not because they were just playing bully ball. No, they were just doing the tiny little things correctly. And so when you've got a redshirt freshman coming in here from Missouri and he's in a kind of an or starting spot, it's
Right.
or, that kind of makes me think, you know what? I wonder if we kind of got a little bit more of those details, hash, leveled out a little bit. And this depth chart has been kind of fun to look at.
Oh, 100%.
In that regard, like, because you could say the same thing about that left tackle position. Is it, if I'm looking at a glass half full, is it because all those guys got their details correctly, and Pritchett just, he just showed up, so maybe he doesn't have the details quite down yet, but he's got the raw talent.
I think Rhule said that several times in at least that I've heard. He said that it's not an issue with Elijah personally as the player, as the person on the team. It's an issue of him he false starts a lot. Is one of the things Rhule pointed out. He's doing a lot of false starts. So it's execution. It's like I said, Scott, the small details, all those things. So that leads me to go, okay, we've got 3 oars at left tackle. That means we got 3 dudes that absolutely Donovan Raiola believes can do the job at left tackle. I just think he believes that Gatula and God bless him, Corcoran stuck around and gutted it out, and he's made a dent too. So, but I also think there might be a little gamesmanship. Maybe there's a little gamesmanship that Gatula maybe isn't the first guy that runs out on Thursday night. Maybe it is.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you guys is who do you, if you had to, I don't know. I don't know if I feel like he's the first guy that runs out there. Because I will tell you, as a coach, I can say pretty confidently there's some gamesmanship going on with these depth charts. Trust me, I play those games too. I get it.
Oh, thank you, the other Dave. I wish we could too, my friend. I really do. There's a lot of pods that do Tuesday. There's only so many days in the week, and there's like 85 of us that do content out here. So
No,
I appreciate it, Dave. I really do. But yeah, we would love to figure out a different day. It's just for us, and at least for me anyway, Tuesday's the best day because all the rest of my days on the calendar seem to keep getting filled up with other things that are important to me as well. So believe it or not, Husker content isn't the most important thing in my life, but it's up there. Hanging out with you guys is important to me, but it's up there. So do we want to get into the game, or is there anything else on that depth chart that you wanted to talk about?
Not really.
I think everything else
covered it from my end.
I mean, place kicker. I think we all thought Kyle Cunanan was probably going to be the lead guy, but John Hull is an oar, so you never know.
I do like that. So there's one other aspect that I wanted to cover here.
Yep.
We've all talked about what we saw. We saw flashes with Carter Nelson last year, and then we've got Heinrich Harburg switching over to the tight end position from last year. And so that is really intriguing in my opinion, because I know that they've been high on Harburg. They've kind of kept him as a little secretive, but they haven't really been praising him too much, but they haven't, been underplaying him by any means. But what I saw with Carter Nelson last year was a really, really high ceiling.
Yep.
And he's had the whole offseason to develop and put himself to another level as a sophomore. And you get Heinrich Harburg, who just completely shifts from quarterback to tight end. And the fact that, according to this depth chart and plain text, the way it seems, is that he's competing head to head with Carter Nelson. That's really intriguing to me.
Yeah, that's intriguing. And I think it's also intriguing to look at that list and go, oh, shoot, there's no or next to Luke Lindenmeyer's name. He's the man at the top of the chart. And then you've got Heinrich Harburg and Carter Nelson, both of them very good athletes, both of them freakish athletes, really good catch radiuses, all those things. We could see an awful lot of 2 tight end sets this year.
Oh, I 100%. I just speaking of the tight ends, can I throw something at you guys? Yeah. Whenever I was at practice, and I'm talking like I was like right there, like real close to the field, right? Something that very much stood out to me, Heinrich looks like he does not look out of place with that tight end group. I didn't know, like he looks even more muscular than he did when he was playing. Like he took that offseason program very seriously. Like, you know what I mean? Like he does, here's what I'll say. He does not look like a quarterback playing tight end. He looks like a tight end, if that makes sense. And that's something that just stood out to me right away. I'll be real. I was kind of curious about that. Like, how out of place does he look there? You know what I mean? And you can tell he's put on some muscle. He's put on some good weight. Like it is, it's interesting, man.
Nelson looks bigger too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he does.
Nelson's definitely bulked too. Yeah. And I don't think he's lost much of his speed from all the reports I've heard and read about.
100%. No, he looks good there too. But I just saw them standing there warming up, like getting ready to do a drill. And I was like, Heinrich look like he doesn't look, like I said, he does not look like a quarterback playing tight end. He just straight up looks like a legit tight end. And that was something that stood out to me. It was something I was wondering is physicality wise, like, just how would he stack up there? And he does not look out of place. So hopefully that can translate. But just on pure looks, he does good. And he was getting after it. He can block real well too. So I'm kind of excited for him. I was kind of on the fence of like, how much is he going to be able to actually play a true tight end? Is it more of a gimmicky tight end? And I'll say, I think they might actually be using him as like a true tight end. You know what I mean? And that kind of excites me.
He made some good blocks in that Boston College game, if I recall correctly. Yeah. He was out there throwing his weight around a little bit too. So, just an interesting little tidbit about the Elijah Judy at number 1 defensive tackle, or nose tackle, whatever that position is. Have you watched any of the simulated games that are on Nebraska, the Voice of College Football on Justin's channel? I
have not. I've been meaning to, but I know what I just haven't seen him yet.
Elijah Judy is a freaking beast on there. I mean, he's getting like 1-2 sacks a game, it seems like. Wow. I mean, he's just busting through. He's disruptive. He's always beating his offensive lineman across from. Conversely, Luke Lindenmeyer in pass pro is a swinging freaking gate. I don't know why that is. Yeah. And I really hope that's not true. Yeah. But anyway, I just thought that was an interesting tidbit. Let's jump into the game, guys. Let's get to what all 17, 18 people on Twitter are watching us for, which is the game. So we're going to preview, as everybody knows, and everybody is going to do, we're previewing Cincinnati tonight. So I've just got a few stats from 2024 that I want to throw at you guys. The Cincinnati's record was 3-9 in the Big 12. They have 15 transfers coming in for this class, including their quarterback, Brendan Sorsby. Defensive tackle Dante the Don Corleone is key for their defense. He was a disruptor. I believe I heard Dana Holgerson say earlier, one game that they played against Cincinnati when he was at Houston, he basically took their quarterback out of the game in the first play, just rocked his world, and he didn't go back in. So the dude's pretty good. Running back Kiner was their key player on offense last year, rushed for over 1,000 yards, and they have 5 returning offensive linemen that have experience. I believe 2 of them are former starters from last year, and they look to run the ball. And we have a defensive line that everybody's saying might be too small to stop the run or whatever. It's inexperienced and all that good stuff. So just with that in mind, guys, do you think Nebraska had 6 transfers maybe out of the transfer portal this year? I struggle with teams that have a lot of transfers that come in with cohesion as far as the team and being able to play together and all that stuff. And I've heard some comments coming from Cincinnati that they're struggling at the defensive back position, which I think we all expected. They weren't very good at that spot last year. And there's little rumblings going on that they're probably planning to play a lot of zone on Thursday night, which I'm sure gives Dylan Raiola just this giant you know you know what I'm saying. Really good against zone last year. But I guess the thought for me is the 15 transfers in 2025 for them, including their quarterback. I'm just curious, is this team really going to be, because the first game is always a feeling out process, and it's I can't imagine that most of those 15 guys aren't going to start. Right.
Well, I have an interesting depth chart quirk that we can look at. You were talking about transfers. Fun fact. So we've got Sorsby. I mean, he's a good quarterback. I'm not going to knock him at all. I think he's one of those quarterbacks that can be one of the biggest thorns in our side in the game if we let him. But every single projected starter on their wide receiver core 4 guys deep, 5 guys deep are all transfers, first-year transfers.
Yep.
So, like, if we're going to talk about rhythm and relationship and a feel, there's this, everybody I'm sure has a basic understanding of a quarterback and their relationship with their receivers is very important. Because you know their habits, their tendencies, their weak spots, and their strong sides. So you can kind of subconsciously make judgment calls just based on that. And when your entire wide receiver core is new and you had to establish a relationship with all of them in one season, like that's a tough ask, even for this quarterback that I think he's gonna give us a hard time, especially with his legs. But yeah, what do you guys think of that? I was like, there's no way. I checked everybody that's their projected starter. I clicked on it and was like, oh my gosh. And like 2 of the guys are like one of them is transferring in from Lindenwood and the other one is transferring in from Charleston Southern.
So we're getting that's really interesting, dude. I actually did not know. I'm glad you threw that stat. I didn't know that one. That is really interesting because, like you said, like as you were talking, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, well, Rhule-Aid's got to do that with, like
Dane Key and Isaiah Hunter. Yeah.
And I'm like, it's kind of it, though. When you're talking about the entire core, like the entire – that's tough.
The only guy he has a relationship is Joe Royer.
That's crazy. That is really interesting. And I bet that's got to play a factor, I believe.
What kind of relationship would Sorsby have had with him, though, if he is also a transfer that came in this year? Did he come in from the same team?
No, Sorsby, this is his second year with Cincinnati.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. I thought it was.
I think so. I'm pretty sure. Am I going crazy here? I could be going crazy.
Can't remember.
I know he's transferred, I believe, originally from Indiana. So.
Yeah. He had all of last year at Cincinnati.
My bad. I thought he was one of the
stats. But yeah, he was at Indiana for those 2 years.
Yep.
I was like, oh, now you're making me second guess myself.
Some other interesting tidbits, and I'll just throw this out there for the Black Shirts versus the Bearcat offense. The bad news is, guys, is that the 2024 offense for both the Bearcats and the Huskers were diametrically opposed. Believe it or not, Cincinnati had a better offense in 2024 than Nebraska did. They averaged 420.6 yards per game. They were 36th in the country in total offense. Nebraska was 94th at 359 yards per game, which would have been a much lower number had we not kicked old Marcus Satterfield to the tight end room and brought Dana in. Their scoring offense was 85th at 25.2 points per game, so they could move the ball. They just didn't score a whole lot more than Nebraska did, who was 103rd at 23.5 points per game. Their rushing offense was 36th. They actually could run the ball a little bit. That's why I'm worried a little bit on Thursday night if they can move the chains a little bit with the running game and slow the game down. They averaged 184 yards on the ground. Nebraska was 96th at 131 yards on the ground. And then the 2024 passing offenses were a little bit different too. Even with Rhule, we averaged 6 yards a game less in passing than the Cincinnati team did. They were 55th. We were 65th. So just with those thoughts, if the Black Shirts are going to do anything to keep the Cincinnati offense at bay, I think number one, they got to stop the run.
Oh yeah, no. I'll say that
that's got almost 1,100 yards that he ran for last year. Granted, against Big 12 defenses, but he still ran for 1,100 yards.
No, when we've kind of talked about, I think as a whole Husker fan base, we've talked about, hey, if there are some question marks with the defense, it's going to be like up front, right? Because I think having to replace Nash, Ty, and Jamari Butler transferred. I know he was, could be more of a pass rush guy, but just replacing all those dudes up, I just don't think that's a small task. You know what I mean? I think that's something big. So I think this will be a great test I think this is a great first game for us to find out some things about them. You know what I mean? Hey, you're going to be going against a Big 12 opponent, not even a great Big 12 opponent, just a decent Big 12 opponent. We're going to find out a lot about those guys up front. I agree with you, Ken. I think the biggest thing for this black shirt defense is stopping the run and being tough up front. And just to spoiler alert, I'm going to probably feel about the same way about Nebraska's offense. I really do think it's going to come down to those big boys up front. I think on the back end, we have a lot more talent and a lot more cohesion. It's just going to come down to how do our guys hold up front. This is a great test for them. I feel like on both sides of the ball. This isn't a crappy, like HCU, like we play in a few weeks. This also isn't a great Big Ten opponent. You know what I mean? I feel like this is a good first opening test. You know, and I think we're going to find out a lot about up front on both sides of the ball.
Yep. I think I'm just going to ring the same bell here that when you get running back Tawi Walker coming in from Wisconsin, and he ran for almost 1,000 yards last year, almost put up 100 yards against Oregon's defense last year. And he's 5'8", 5'9", and weighs almost 220 pounds. Like, he's one of those bowling ball type of running backs that he can give us a really, really hard time, especially when you consider the fact that we're reloading up on the defensive line. I know that Justin, if he can make it in here tonight, I'd love to hear his thoughts on that matchup, because I know he's really, really high on this defensive line, that we're going to not just stay where we were at, but he thinks we can almost take a step forward in our defensive line, if I remember correctly what he said last time we talked about this. Can we stop Tawi Walker? And I mean, if you got a good run game, that opens up your pass game. And Sorsby is one of those scrappy quarterbacks that can always find that dump route and can always find those guys coming in those cross routes that are opened up. That was when I was watching they were highlights, so it was always his best plays. But that was something that I noticed, is that he's got touch, that's for sure. He can bomb it downfield and land it right in the breadbasket if he needs to. But you got to stop Tawi Walker. You can't let him bully us on that defensive line. And then Joe Royer, you can't let him do anything. Because he's going to have the most synchronized relationship with his quarterback out of this entire wide receiver core. And if you stop the running game and you lock down that tight end, that's going to probably end up being his go-to guy when he's got 60,000 Husker fans screaming in his face, in Arrowhead Stadium. I mean, you lock those two things down, and I think we're feeling pretty good.
Good points, boys. Good points. I appreciate that very much. As far as stopping their passing game, like you said, Scott, I think it's pretty key to consider that he's basically working with a lot of dudes he hasn't worked with before. I wonder, and it's hard to find all this information out, I wonder how much time Sorsby do the Rhule-Aid thing, take all these guys somewhere where they could work with other coaches or whatever. Like Dylan took a bunch of the guys down to Texas with him. Did Sorsby do anything with these receivers to help develop relationship? I can't help but think that he did, because of course you've got 8 new guys in the room that he hasn't worked with before. So I would think that would be paramount to developing that timing outside of practice, outside of camp, outside of installation of an offense or whatever. If you can just get some sort of idea of what the catch radius is on this guy, is this guy willing to go up top for something tall? Is this guy more about having the ball out in front of him? I mean, those are all factors you have to take into consideration, I think, when you're a quarterback and working with new wideouts. So, and that's where I think this defense can really have an advantage, because these guys have played together a long time. Andrew Marshall's brand new defensive back. He's going to be starting opposite Sierra Wright. He's played a lot of damn football too. And you can't tell me he hasn't figured something out if he got that starting job already over some guys that were here to begin with. So I'm excited to see what we can do defending the pass. I am, like you, Scott, and I think it alliterated their coach. I am a little worried about the run defense. I truly am. I'm worried that we'll give up that 185 to 220 yards in this game, and that really chews up the clock and doesn't give Dylan as much time to work as we would need. But I'd like to see us chew up the clock running the ball too, especially in the fourth quarter. So, but anyway, think we should move on to offense. Have we kind of figured out what Cincinnati's going to do. They're going to want to run the ball. I mean, everything I've heard is it's going to be 55 to 60% run. And a lot of that's going to probably come on the quarterback. And he does run the speed option, and he does run his own read. So we've got to be disciplined on the ends and then contain. A lot's going to rest on guys like McGahee and whoever else is at that jack spot. They've got to contain. They can't get upfield too hard, or we're going to get burned on some option plays. So anyway, moving on to the offense, what the Huskers need to do against the defense. For me, I think it should be all about making sure that Corleone doesn't affect the game too much. He's going to make his plays. He's going to get in the backfield. He's going to make a play or two. What we don't want him to do is wreck a game. So I would say he's going to spend a lot of time dealing with Spindler and Evans right up front, right out of the gate. I think those two guys are going to be all over him like, white on rice, because their defense was not that good last year. They were 85th in the country, giving up 385 yards a game. Nebraska was 18th at 318 yards a game. Their scoring defense was 67th in the country. They gave up almost 25 points a game. Nebraska only gave up just under 20 points a game. The rushing defense, they gave up 163 yards a game, 88th in the country. Nebraska was 8th at 101 yards per game. I hope if we can stay in the top 15 in rushing defense, I'm going to be absolutely thrilled by the end of the season. I mean, that would be freaking awesome. And we're going to be a lot more aggressive defense anyway. So but you're going to give up some big plays when you do that. Passing defense, they weren't great. They were 73rd at 223 yards a game. Nebraska wasn't a lot better. They were 65th at 217 yards a game. So I think we can attack them with the pass. I think I think you could see Dylan go for 250 pretty easily in this game, especially if the run game and Corleone are a non-factor against our run game. That'd be great. So that would be my breakdown on it. I would look at it and go, let's pass to maybe open up the run against this particular defense. Get Corleone thinking, if I get upfield, I don't know what's coming, a pass or a run. And he's got to kind of slow his roll a little bit. He could be pretty susceptible to some draw plays too, especially if we're successful on the passing game right away. I don't know what kind of passing offense. If you were looking at a defense with those kind of numbers and you're dropping the air raid like Dana is, coach, what kind of passing plays would you like to draw up? A lot of short stuff, lull them in, and then drop something over the top.
Yes, I think that's something we're going to see is a lot more quick, easy things for Dylan, especially early in the game, getting him in a rhythm. And with how good Dylan is against zone coverage, which I believe we're going to see a lot of, and he is so good pre-snap. And I'm not saying he's bad post-up, but I'm just saying Dylan is so good before the ball, especially before the ball is snapped, and recognizing the zone coverage, especially when there's not a ton of disguises going on. He's spectacular at that. So that will be really interesting to see. I think we're going to get him dialed in early. And, man, if we can get all those Cincinnati's big dudes up front to just have to start guessing, because, hey, all of a sudden if you think this is a pass rush and you get trapped, or you get hit with if we hit a counter that we've gotten kind of good at over the last few years, and you're getting hit by – imagine any of our left tackles pulling across the thing and hitting somebody, or like Luke Lindenmeyer, if we go like GH counter and hit, that could be real nasty. So, no, I really do think I trust Dana Holgerson about as much as I could ever trust a man with our offense. I really do trust him quite a bit. So I think we're going to get Dylan going early. And I think if we can just keep that Cincinnati defense guessing, it's going to be a great day for us.
How about you, Scott? What do you think?
Yeah, I have a feeling that this is one of those games where you can really see Raiola's high football IQ on display. He's developed. He's put on some good weight. He's really gotten, and saw speculation, but in my opinion, I'm sure he's gotten way more comfortable with Dana's offensive strategies. And then, like we said, the defensive backroom in Cincinnati is not a strong point at all. And you guys alluded to this, and I wasn't aware of this, that there may have been an offhand comment that alluded to the idea that they might be running a little bit more zone just because they don't feel comfortable with the discipline of their defensive backs yet. Raiola's got to be licking his chops, man. And then you, like we were talking about earlier, if you've got a bang double tight end set with Lindenmeyer and Harburg or Nelson just ready to go in those little short dump routes, and then you've got, I mean, we just got talent all over the dang place in our wide receiver core. You can do pretty much whatever you want as long as you get a good run game established as well. Like, I like the idea of starting the game with passing. Normally, 9 times out of 10, I'm like, get the run game established and then it can open up the pass. But this situation, I think, dictates, yes, we should probably establish a pass game first, get Corleone kind of in a different, we want him in our rhythm.
Right.
And then you can start handing the ball off to Emmett, and then there's going to be lanes opening up.
Right.
So yeah, I think I'm in agreement with what I believe you guys are alluding to, is you kind of get the pass game established, and then you can let Emmett just kind of run wild and free, and you limit the mistakes, and you just kind of chew them up. Yeah, I mean, Dad, you pointed out the stat that I think is the most telling, is even with Corleone being a game disruptor last year and their interior defensive line being pretty much their strong suit last year, the fact that they still allowed 4.7 yards per carry average last year is, I think that's something that we can really look at and circle on the board and be like, if we can replicate those stats in the game, 4.7 yards, I mean, that's almost a guaranteed first down when you're in those, I mean, you're on 3rd and 5. That's a first down. So that's what I'm looking at. Get Dylan licking his chops, see that arm talent really on full display. Because if there's any key to, or if there's any like piece of our offense that I can look at and be like, you know, it's the beginning of the season. We got to find our rhythm. You know, everybody's kind of, you know, you get those first few games, kind of figure yourselves out. If there's anybody that I can circle and be like, I don't really have a concern that they're not going to be in sync right away, it would be Raiola. I have nothing but faith that once that whistle is blown, 15 minutes starting the game, I think Raiola is our guy who is locked in and ready to go, just off the jump.
100%. And maybe this is just too cocky on my part as a Nebraska fan, but I just feel like the wide receiver talent that we have right now is so much better than anything that Cincinnati's going to have in their defensive back room. Like, I don't know how they're going to be able to handle Dane Key. Just him alone. Take everybody else out. How are you going to handle him? Then you have Isaiah Hunter in there too. And, who are you going to have cover Ja'Cory Barney?
And Harburg and Lindenmeyer and Carter Nelson.
I just feel like there's just so many. I just don't. Maybe that's cocky and arrogant on my part. I just have such a hard time envisioning what Cincinnati's going to be able to do to handle those guys. I just feel like our talent is going to be so much better than them at that point. You know, I don't know how they're going to be able to handle it. I have a hard time picturing it. I'm just bigger picture. I'm not as high overall on the win-loss record. Don't need to go through all that stuff again. In these first few games, the talent that we have on the offensive side, I don't know how these first few opponents are going to match up to it, and Cincinnati included. I have a hard time picturing their defensive skill guys matching up against our offensive skill guys.
I really think the only way that Cincinnati comes away with, I guess, their head held high is if just every piece on our offense just doesn't complement Raiola. We drop a lot of balls. We're running a lot of weird routes, and their timing is off or something. Basically, we're going to have to shoot ourselves in the foot in every respect when it comes to our wide receivers and our tight ends consistently in order for Cincinnati to come out on top in that matchup, in my opinion.
Right. Sorry, Scott. I wasn't laughing at what you were saying. I was laughing at our boy Mike Delaware in the comments.
Yeah, yep.
I didn't want to. I wasn't trying to laugh at what you were saying. I thought you were wording it very well. It just, I read that and I couldn't help myself.
Nope, I wasn't even looking. I was just rolling, man.
I was
Mike.
Disrespectful.
He's a good man. He's asking
I couldn't help it.
I think, Coach, you're going to the game, aren't you, Thursday?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe we're wrapping up practice a bit.
So yeah, you can look for Coach because he's not old like I am, Mike. So, but
Mike. For those listening to the podcast, there's a gentleman in our chat named Mike Delaware, and he wanted to know if we were going to the game on Thursday. My father and I will not be going to the game for our own various reasons. Maybe I'm getting too old because I'm sitting there thinking 8 p.m. kickoff. Even on a work night, I'm like, ugh, I gotta watch.
Friday's gonna suck. Friday's gonna suck, boys.
Friday's gonna absolutely suck. You might not go to bed Friday. Coach.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, too old for late kickoffs. Mike said you're only as old as you feel. Which, thank you, Mike. I appreciate the encouragement, but I feel like I'm 100 these days, and this cold is kicking my tail. So, anyway, Century Red, I guess, is the new name.
That's what got me to start laughing. Scott was in the middle of giving a very good, talk about breakdown of the game, and I just start cracking up laughing, and I'm like, I'm trying not to be disrespectful here, but that was pretty good. I saw that pop up.
That's pretty funny, Mike. I got to admit, Century Red. I might have to change the graphic. Throw an old guy with a Husker T-shirt on and a cane on the end of the graphic or something. But anyway, that's it for the offense. I think I'm with you guys. I think 100%. If we can get Dylan in a rhythm right away, and if Dana is going to do what I think that Wisconsin game plan is perfect, something like what Dana did against Wisconsin, where they didn't know what was coming from down to down. It seemed like there was a good mix of run to pass. He threw it to Emmett a lot out of the backfield, and once they kind of started collapsing on that, suddenly the Corey Barney passes and the Isaiah Nayor passes were opening up. And if Banks would ever catch anything besides a cold, he was open too on some of those. So I like that a game plan similar to that, and I think that's what we'll see. We'll see a lot of mixing it up, seeing us get some yards. And if we can get in the end zone, I think we were one of the worst teams in the Big Ten once we got inside the 20. And I expect that to change drastically this year. Because anyway, all right. So let's jump on to the end of let's get into our score predictions, guys. I think this is where we have a lot of fun with this.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we've all talked about a little bit, we're kind of worried about whether or not Nebraska Black Shirts are going to stand up to their run game a little bit. The front, but I'm kind of with Justin. I'm a little worried on one side of my mind, but I'm kind of with Justin too, and believing that the talent is there, that these guys are legit. I think Riley Van Poppel can be that next Ty Robinson, and maybe Elijah Judy being number one and getting that black shirt first is only going to light a fire under him. And next thing you know, RVP is just tearing stuff up in the latter half of the year.
Right.
But they're going to rotate. Those guys are both going to play a lot of snaps 100%. Thursday night. Elijah's not going to play 60 snaps. He's going to play 25, 30, and RVP's probably playing similar. So
right. That's kind of like how I said earlier of how there are so many of those dudes you could say deserve one of those. These dudes are going to play a lot. You know what I mean? So
go ahead, Coach. Talk about your prediction you made here.
I have got a 38-17 prediction. I feel pretty good about this. I actually do think maybe for the first little bit we could see a bit of a dogfight, but I'm hoping that coming out of halftime, I really do feel like the biggest difference here is Dana Holgorsen. I'm telling you, when I cannot think of very many people on this entire earth that I would trust with this offense more than Dana Holgorsen. I'm trusting him to be able to get it done with all the weapons we have. Like I said, I think Cincinnati is going to be tough enough to keep it close for a bit, but I do feel like this offense is going to explode in the second half, and I do think we can pull away with a 21-point win.
Love it. Oh, my dad muted himself.
No apologies necessary, Mr. Delaware. You're good. No apologies necessary.
Hey, trust me, I've derailed their show plenty of times. I've derailed NBNR several times. So it's only fair.
Being in the live chat is trying to have your own conversations to make the hosts laugh, and nobody knows why the hell they're laughing, because half the stuff you post in there, they couldn't post up on the screen anyway.
I have been known to derail NBNR a couple times with some of my chats, so I think it's only fair.
Goes around, comes around.
Yep.
This is fun. Talking, trying not to cough up a lung.
Yeah, if the folks are not aware yet, my dad is sick.
Yeah, it's nasty. It's not fun. I would not wish this on anyone, but
he doesn't have his normally buttery smooth radio voice.
It's that gravelly, choky coffee voice. Yeah.
Going through puberty again.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. Justin's not here, but when we did our Rhule-Aid versus reality show, he predicted a 17 to 20 point win in the reality side, and also a 35-point win if he was going full Rhule-Aid. I believe he called for like a 18-point win on his live show they did last weekend. I think it was. I think that was the last podcast of theirs I listened to. I'm only like a week and a half behind on podcasts because I was in Alaska for a week, and it's kind of hard to listen to podcasts and hang out with your wife for an anniversary week. So I thought it would be more wise to hang out with her than listen to podcasts. And I think that was a good choice. So anyway, yeah, I think Justin predicted like a 18, 19-point win. I can't remember what score he said, and I apologize for that, Justin. Please don't hurt me. He's a boxer, he's going to come here for Michigan, and he just might knock me out because I can't remember something he said on his show. Anyway, Scott, you go ahead.
Yeah, so in a Rhule-Aid versus reality, my reality pick was a 17-point win. But as I was kind of really crunching the numbers, I'm right about that 17. I think it's more of an 18-point win. My score prediction is 31-13 Nebraska. And the way that I see this game looking like, if I were to try and paint a picture of the aesthetic of it, I have a feeling it's going to look very similar to Colorado last year. I think we come out and we are just on fire, and we start doing some crazy stuff, and everybody is instantly tweeting 12-0, baby. We're going 12-0. And then Rhule kind of dials things back a little bit, and we kind of stop doing the rough and the fluff, or whatever, let's just dial it back, guys. Like, just play some fundamental football here. And Cincinnati does a few things, and they catch us with our pants down a few times. But yeah, 31-13. I think that game is not as close. I mean, it's an 18-point win. Like, that's a pretty good score margin, but I think it's going to feel a lot better than that. I think a lot of those points are just going to be, a lot of missed points are just going to be, well, we just kind of controlled the game, and we were kind of playing around with some other guys and getting them some experience and whatnot. And I mean, you can't take any game for granted. I don't think our coaching staff would ever in their minds ever say, yeah, we're winning this game, so let's just start putting in, the 2s and 3s. Like, that's not going to happen. But I have a feeling that there's going to be some coaching decisions that are going to kind of artificially bring the scores down a little bit. Right. But I think everybody's thinking this is going to be this even matchup, but seriously, I just don't. Like, when you look at Cincinnati on paper and when you look at Nebraska on paper, they are in they are just two different categories.
Trust me, I can assure you, in terms of the Husker fan base, like, I am one of, I don't mean this in like a bad way, but like, I'm one of the more negative ones right now in terms of like, I don't see a 10-11 wins, but so you know what I'm saying though? Like, I seem to be more kind of in the middle or even a little bit lower than everybody else. So I'm the guy that I feel like would be more. I just don't see. I don't know. I could be crazy. I just feel like we have way more talent, I guess, is where I'm at.
And I think I'm going crazy here because every single voice that I'm watching right. make their score predictions. Everybody on Twitter, all the YouTube feed, On3, CBS Sports, all these talking heads are like, yeah, I think it's going to be a pretty close game. I think they're going to, it's going to be a brawl and they're going to do all these things. But like, I just don't.
21-20. Like, I just don't see it.
I just don't see it. I no knock to Cincinnati, but Like when you look at Cincinnati, you have one guy that you can point to and be like, that is a guy who can make a difference in a game. And he's their defensive lineman. And I'm sorry, we have one in Dominican Sue. He's really the only person that I can look at and say he was an actual game-changing game disruptor. I don't think that Don Corleone is that kind of guy. You know, hopefully they don't clip this and everything goes to hell.
God dang it.
And then they're like, look at this idiot.
This goes bad. We might go viral, boys.
Yep. But every other piece, when I did, which this year I kind of promised myself I'm not going to do as many deep dives in some of these games, but this one I gave special exception because it's our opening game. It's an Arrowhead Stadium. It's the context is a little bit different with this one. But as I'm doing my deep dive, I was really expecting to find like, oh man, here's this little, you know, there's a few hidden gems that may produce, that may do some things. But when I just look at it at face value, like we are in two different leagues. We come from two different conferences that have two different ceilings. And I'm sorry, Cincinnati finished off the season with a 5-game losing streak last year and didn't even go to a bowl game, which obviously Nebraska did. You know, we
lost 5 of our last 6 games too.
But we went to a bowl game.
But we went to a bowl game. Yeah.
I get it. I just see a
I'm just talking
middle
trash.
of the pack Big 10 team against a lower of the pack Big 12 team is kind of where I'm at. And maybe it shouldn't be that simple, but that's just kind of what I'm looking at, you know?
Yeah. When you could, like I said, just everything about this game screams there's going to be moments where we're kind of a little bit uncomfortable, but I think there's a good chance that some Husker fans are just going to end up going to bed because it's just like, all right. You know, I could see it being a thing like, oh, cool, I've got 31-13, but I could see it being one of those things where it's actually 31-6 going into the fourth quarter and they get a trash, you know, end of game touchdown, you know, like, I could see it being one of those things.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's the first game. We got kinks we got to work out. Maybe I tend to be more pessimistic. I agree with you, Coach. I tend to be more on the pessimistic side of things. And so I'm just checking my sanity here because like I said, everybody that I see is like, it's going to be a close game, 1-score game. I mean, Vegas sees it as a 1-score game for a reason. And so I'm going against everybody. So, but you know what? Everybody's wrong.
Hey, there you go. I love it.
I love it. That's a good way to put it. Well, out of all of us guys, I've got this being the closest score. I've predicted a 13-point win in the reality side on our Rhule-Aid versus reality show. And then just like Justin and Scott, I picked a 35-point win if I went full Rhule-Aid. I decided to stick more on the reality side with my prediction. I said 34-21. And I think before we went live, I had mentioned that I think we will see Nebraska go on one of those long time-eating drives at the end of the game where they're up by 1 score. All of Husker Nation is sitting in the stands going, dear God, is this the Pinstripe Bowl all over again? Or is this the end of Iowa all over again? But instead of that being the case, Don Corleone is tired. He's not even on the field for half the drives in the fourth quarter because he's 335 freaking pounds and he's been run over by Spindler and Evans all night. And they just go down the field and they score a breaking of the 1-score curse touchdown to get Nebraska up over the hump by 13 points, 34-21. It'll definitely have a lot of the Pinstripe Bowl feel for much of the second half. I don't think you'll see special teams miscues like you saw against Boston College. But I do think that running game, they're going to probably rush for 175 to 200 yards. And I think that's going to yield at least 7 points, and they'll get some points elsewhere as well with some, maybe, I don't know, maybe Horsby breaks a big run and scores. And, you know, it'll be something that we've got to work out the kinks on before we get into the Big Ten schedule. But if you hold these guys to 21 points and you put up 34, I think most of Husker Nation will go home pretty happy, especially since if it's going the way I think it goes, where it's a 1-score game in the fourth quarter and they make it a 2-score win, who wouldn't be satisfied with that? They figured it out, right? They freaking figured it out. Something Jared says all the time on No Block, No Rock. Figure it out. Yeah. Well, if you win by 13, you figured something out.
No, I agree. I do want the record to show. If your prediction exactly comes true, I'm very happy with that. Like, I am thrilled with, like, like I love that,
Yep. All right, boys. That was fun. That was an absolute hoot. Even without Justin here. I mean, we miss you, Justin. I don't know if you're watching or if you're sitting in a dark room somewhere nursing that poor headache. I know what migraines feel like. I've had them numerous times. They're no fun. So praying for you, bud. Hope you're getting better. Get better soon. You can come back next week because we will be back next week. So we'll have a game to recap. Oh, damn, that's so cool. We'll probably preview a little bit of Akron. I don't know if we'll do much because it's friggin' Akron, right?
I will not be doing a deep dive on.
I'm not doing.
Hey, you know what I will be doing a deep dive on? The weather to make sure we actually get to play the game.
Yeah,
I know that's a sore spot in our hearts, but
yeah, we want Thunderstruck played in the stadium, but not actually.
Right.
So anyway, that was a lot of fun. Hey, Coach, I know you've not done much content lately. I know you're intending to. You're hoping to get back out there again and get some of this stuff out. For anybody who's watching who hasn't had a chance to follow you out there, where do they do that?
If they go to @the BA Coaches Show, last Thursday, we had a kind of just season preview. I dropped one on there last Thursday. So you go check that out. I'm going to have my Cincinnati preview drop the morning of the game. That's going to be recorded tomorrow. So that's going to drop Thursday morning. And it should be a pretty good time. I'm trying to get back into it. And, I'm not feeling burnt out. And hey, it's football season, boys. It's the best time of the year.
Yes, it is.
I don't know how it is up there. I guess I assume it's not too far off, but my weather in Kansas City has been great this last week or so. Like,
dude,
it's been. Glorious, dude, I was coaching in practice today, and I was coaching in 72-degree weather. Like, that doesn't happen in August ever.
No.
I'm feeling great about that. So it's a beautiful time of year.
It was 60 degrees when I got to work this morning at 10. It was 74 when I got off work at 1:30. And when I teed off at 2:08, it was about 75. It was picture perfect. I played like absolute hammered crap, but I didn't care. It wasn't hot, and I was hanging out with a good buddy. So it was awesome. But anyway, that's it. Scott, where they can follow you, my boy?
Yeah, you can follow me on X at ScottGenRedPod. Give me a follow.
And you can follow the show at GenRedPod on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. You can also subscribe to the audio version of this very live stream at Generation Red on your favorite podcast app. You can also email us at genredpod@gmail.com or go to our website at genredpod.com and you can buy merch. It's right there at the top of the page. There's a gray bar up there. Click on that link. It'll take you right to the Herd Sports website where they've got our merch shop set up for you. This is a Herd Sports podcast. We are a proud member of their alliance. They're great people over there, and they do great stuff, and they've got great podcasts. There's just a bunch of them, including, aren't you with Herd now, Coach?
Not yet.
No, not yet. You got to keep that lined up, dude.
Yeah.
They're good people over there. Absolutely fantastic.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But that's it for us. So for Coach BA and Scott and myself, together we're Generation Red, and we are here to chronicle Nebraska's inevitable return to college football greatness, one podcast at a time, because there is no place like Nebraska.
And Iowa's corn sucks.
In Rhule, we trust.
Ooh,
absolutely.
I like the ring of that. They rhyme.
Yeah, that's a good tag, dude. Iowa's corn sucks, and in Rhule we trust.
Dude, those are bars, bruh.
Yeah.
I need to come up with. You can go to like the YouTube library, Scott, and see if you can find a hip hop track that we can throw under that.
Like hype track. That'd be great.
That'd be so cool. So cool. Anyway, thanks again for watching, guys. Thanks again for listening to the podcast if you're doing that. And until next time, we'll see you after we beat the Bearcats.
Go Big Red.
Go Big Red.